How did you get into blues, and who are your favorite artists?
Oh, well, okay. I mean, I grew up with, in the 50s as a young kid, the Weavers at Carnegie Hall, and I can't remember not knowing who Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie and Leadbelly were, Josh White. And so then when the folk revival hit, I was primed, and I caught on studying with Jerry Ricks when I was 13, I guess. And he was great friends with Mississippi John Hurt and Doc Watson. So that was both the core of the syllabus and, an opportunity to get to know people. And so that would be possibly the answer to both of those questions.
Okay, cool.
And then, I don't know, favorites is, those guys and Fred McDowell and, other than that, whoever I've been listening to recently.
Yeah.
I love it all.
Who have you studied and played with? And I guess maybe can you go in depth of what you studied and learned from these guys, or what they showed you?
Okay. Well, I was in a peculiar situation during what old Bruce Phillips called the Great Folk Scare of the 60s, in that I was studying with Jerry, and when I met people, I sort of, knew something about playing their style and their repertoire. I could meet Brant McGee, say, or Fred McDowell, and not say, "Oh, how'd you do that?" Because just could hang.
Yeah.
But it goes by personality. One could take a lesson with Reverend Gary Davis. He was a teacher. I did take a lesson with him at his sister-in-law's house in North Philly when he was in town for a gig. And he would, you'd pay a fee, and he'd go over, repeat parts till you got it, and talk about spelling your chords. That's the way he phrased it. But Fred McDowell is still a major inspiration, and he wasn't a teacher. It wasn't his personality. He only said two things to me ever about playing. The first time I got my nerve to play in front of him, he said, "Keep your thumb moving." And the last time I played with him, and I did perform with him several times, he said, "Yeah, well, a lot of people can play, but you got to get your own words." That was the only overt instruction I got from him, and he's probably as influential on my playing as anybody. But
cool. Now, did you also play with Son House at all, or I saw that on your?
I did privately at Dick Waterman's apartment.
Wow, what was that like?
That was very weird. Son had a drinking problem.
Yeah.
And I was staying with Son. Dick asked me to pick him up at the airport. Dick Waterman was Madden's son, and John Hurt, and Bonnie Raitt, and Buddy Guy, and Junior Wells, and Fred McDowell, and on. So Dick asked me to pick up Son at the airport and stay with him at Dick's place. Dick was on the road with Robert Pete Williams, and the following day they were going to swing through, pick up Son, and go to Pittsburgh, I think it was. So I brought my guitar and said, "Wow, this is my chance to learn stuff from Son House." And he just wasn't in the mood.
Oh, gotcha.
Till later in the night, out of frustration, I picked up the guitar and started playing what I knew of his stuff, and he started singing along. So it was more as much a spiritual experience as a musical one, but I did play with Son House.
Wow.
The Fred McDowell tapes were recorded at World Control Studios, which was a coffee house that Germantown, part of Philadelphia, in 1970 and 71. So these were in May of 71. I backed Fred for 3 nights. I saw, I guess, 6 sets. And Saturday afternoon, we took him out to the Swarthmore Folk Festival, where he was on a bill with Happy and Artie Traum when they had a 5-piece band. And my old teacher, Jerry Ricks, was still in town. He played with Fred on Saturday afternoon.
Wow.
And then on Saturday night, we went 5 blocks away after our show to Danny Starobin's club, which was called Buck Dancer's Choice. And he had Reverend Gary Davis. They were celebrating Gary Davis's 75th birthday. Maybe a week late, I think. And even better, Taj Mahal had been playing at the Academy of Music. So Danny and John Davis, great harmonica player, who's on that Jesse Graves record, and Taj and Danny and Fred and John were jamming. I was beat. I was like 19 years old and getting run ragged. Old man. I just wanted to go home. But on the other hand, I couldn't interrupt this very, very cool thing. And Gary Davis and his wife were kind of sitting on the side of the stage, politely listening until they got tired, and they didn't have to, you know.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Bear my sensitivities, they just got taken to wherever they were staying, and the jam went on.
Yeah. Wow. What would you say is your greatest musical moment, or do you have one, or is it many?
I don't know. It's
Yeah, tough question. We can go on to the next one.
Yeah.
What can you talk about running the folk department for WXPN? And I remember last time I was at your house, you also, it sounds like what you're doing with the Fred McDowell tapes, like there's so much unreleased stuff like that XPN has or something. So
I don't remember what conversations we have had about it.
Yeah.
So I'll answer the last part first. I tried to get XPN interested in that tape library because I'm one of the few people who know what's on it, and it was not in their possession. And for a while, I knew where it was, and I offered to try to fundraise my own fees if they would provide their facilities and for me to digitize and annotate that stuff. And they were not interested.
Oh,
Yeah. So now back to better stories about WXPN. I hit college as a 17-year-old freshman and had been listening to them in high school, and so I joined up the station, and my buddy Hoyle Osborne was running the folk department, and he dropped out, and this was the late 60s. He dropped out of school, and so I became the head of the folk music department until my sophomore year when I dropped out of school. But it was 35, 40 hours a week of folk music. Sort of afternoons was mixed, and we had shorter evening slots where we'd have bluegrass or old-time country and blues, and divide those shows up by categories. And it was great. It was a huge record library to go trip around in and find other cool stuff that I didn't know or only knew by legend. And we also went out and recorded. We did live shows and taped Doc Watson. There was some Van Ronk, and I taped Muddy Waters at the old electric factory.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are these tapes still in existence, or they're just like...
Well, that's what I was saying. Possibly. The station has lost track of them and lost interest in them, unfortunately. I believe I could track them down given motivation, although the last keeper of them was talking about donating them to the Library of Congress, which is, a good place for them.
Yeah. Gotcha. Can you talk about Washboard Slim and playing with him, and then also Smithsonian place?
Yeah, I knew of him. I had heard of him in the '60s, but I didn't meet him till the 1984 when I caught on with a band called the Wild Bohemians, which is still going, doing Mardi Gras in Philadelphia of all things. We just did our 36th, I think, is the official count. And at the beginning, we had two kind of brilliant folk percussionists, Washboard Slim, which is Robert Young, and Harness Spoons Williams. And Slim had this amazing washboard. He bolted two washboards together and put a plank down what you would think of as the side and sat on it so that he can now play with two hands and attached frying pans and pot lids and a cowbell and a wood block and all kinds of stuff. And then he'd also, I think he had a bolt, stove bolt in one hand and thimbles on his fingers on the other hand. And it also, he had a set of rototoms and other stuff on the side that he really could, cook with. So through the 1980s, when he was in his 80s, we would do these Mardi Gras gigs, and then we'd do other gigs together as a duo. Some, they were going into elementary schools and playing. He got those, and some city parks and other bars. I got those. So we'd go out as a duo. And Slim, now not to be confused with Washboard Sam, who was also on that scene, and I think was Big Bill Bruce's brother-in-law or something. But Washboard Slim, Robert Young, played with recorded it with Brownie McGee. And he was playing with Brownie before, or recording, I don't know about, other scenes, but he was recording with Brownie McGee before Sonny Terry. He's on the first Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee record.
Wow.
Yeah. And so in the 80s, I was the favorite guitarist of Brownie McGee's favorite washboard player, which I'm proud of that one.
Yeah, that's cool. Wow. Nice.
So when he died, his brother-in-law gave me his washboard. And, you can put a link to my website because a picture really helps. www.waveshare.com/washboardslim.
Right.
And he, so I had it for about 17 years till I finally found a curator who got it, which was a guy named Gary Strom at the Smithsonian. And I can check the spelling on that and send it to you, but and so he sat in my closet for 17 years, and now it's in the Smithsonian's closet, but at least it's secure. And it's, I don't know, he moved on, but the curator. But I got to deliver it to the Smithsonian, and I swear to God, leave it on a table next to the 1683 Ole Bull Stradivarius violin.
Wow. Amazing. Last question for you. what else do you want to accomplish? What else do you want to do musically?
Oh, everything.
Yeah, don't we all?
You know, my new trip is, for the first time in my life, I got a 5-string banjo.
Nice.
I got a very cool Vega tubaphone tenor banjo from 1926, and I had a 5-string neck made for it. And so through my teens and 20s, there was always a 5-string banjo around the house, but I never owned one. Have had one around to practice on for 45 years. So just right. I mean, as of 2 weeks ago, I've got that banjo, and I've got a banjo mandolin. If I ever get a trad jazz call, or I could tune the 5-string like a guitar, since I gave up the tenor. I sacrificed it as a tenor, but right now I'm catching up on learning Scruggs picking, which I was never really very. I was sort of competent in the old timey banjo, but I never really learned bluegrass banjo. So that's my current excitement.
Nice.
Given, and I think I was correct. Part of my calculation is that I've got creeping arthritis in both hands, and I thought that I needed something new that would excite me and be less stressful than playing full chords on a guitar.
Right.
So that's what. So far, it's working.